All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Strange Coordinates, a show where we use brands as compass points to lead us to fascinating stories. I am Topher Burns.
And I'm Idon Sarakaya. Along with our partner Robert, Topher and I lead an ad agency called Territorial that helps brands find their place in the world. But we're not the only people who love brands. On Stranger Coordinates, we focus on a specific theme and bring a traveling companion along with us on the journey. Today, we're exploring the fast-moving world of consumer electronics. It's a massive industry. It's the center of a larger cultural conversation about the role of tech in our daily lives.
And we're not going to explore this idea alone. Our guest joining us today is the Global Social Media Director at Booking.com. She has spent her entire 15-plus year career focused on digital and social media marketing. She's worked with Fortune 500 brands like Samsung, Volkswagen, BMW Group, Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and last but not least, Nestle Purina. And during that career, she's been based in New York City, DC, San Francisco, Seoul, Korea, and now Amsterdam. Please welcome to Stranger Coordinates, Laura Kay.
Hey.
Welcome,
Excited
welcome,
to be
welcome.
here.
Yeah, we are too. Laura, as I was rattling off all your bona fides, we're going to dive into, as Aidan said, the world of consumer electronics. But I can't skip past asking how our dear Loafer is.
Is currently snoozing on the couch. She is my 15-year-old mini dachshund, and she is absolutely thriving. Yeah.
Excellent. She's a social media star, but she was also a working woman. She's going with us on all of our Purina trips. So I know Loafer from a lot of travel to and from St. Louis.
Fun fact, Penny Loafer was kicked out of Purina's offices. She is no longer allowed to
What did she
join.
do?
She bit the head of marketing's dog.
Oh no.
Took a big tuft of fluff right out of that dog. Yeah.
Oh,
So HR gave me a note that I still have to this day, asking me to no longer bring Penny Loafer to the Pier office.
wow.
And And Loafer is, this wasn't like a situation where Loafer is getting bullied around. Loafer was kind of like, I've figured out that this is my room, and now I'm going to go ahead and defend this room from interlopers.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
It was 100% her fault. But
So, as listeners might have guessed, Laura and I worked together on the Nestle Purina account for a very long time at Deep Focus. I'm curious now, you're based now in Amsterdam. I was curious, like, have you noticed a difference in kind of like how the pet industry in the Netherlands like treats the animal relationship? Is it really different from what you saw in America?
advertising and marketing in general in Europe is less. Like whenever I come back home to the US, everywhere from TV to my social feeds to radio to you feel the influx of advertising. So when
Mm,
I'm over here, I don't get a lot of ads. And when I do get ads, they're clearly targeted from something that I've searched.
hmm
So I do get some pet ads, but I also think that the branding isn't as, I don't know, advanced. I think when I was at Purina, like we saw like the underbelly of it and how much work that goes into it. I guess I just don't see it as a consumer over here. I don't see like I'm clearly a dog owner willing to spend money on my dog, and I don't, I'm like looking for the opportunities to spend money versus when I'm in the US, it's easy. Like I can spend via the ads in my Instagram feed, and I
Yeah.
don't really get that so much over here.
So,
Yeah, and the brands are because I'm in the Netherlands, so a lot of the brands they're coming from Germany or from Belgium
mm,
or other countries. So um, yeah, I don't know. I think the targeted marketing leaves a lot to be desired.
so
I
you
go
would,
to brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
okay, so you would, as a pet parent, look for more in the Netherlands. You don't feel like you're quite as supported in your desire to spoil your dog.
Yeah. So I just think the options aren't as many. Like the food that my dog eats, which at 15 years old, I'm not going to change her food. They
Right.
don't even sell it here. So it's kind of like with everything. You go to a grocery store for my food, there's only 20 cereal options versus 90 cereal options. And it's the same thing with pets. There's,
Yeah.
you know, 20 products to choose from versus I'm used to 1,000.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's get into the world of infinite options in your face advertising. We were excited to dig into consumer electronics because we just recorded and are soon to release an episode about BlackBerry. And that kind of opened up a whole world for us that you are more familiar than us because you have spent quite a bit of time in the belly of the beast of Samsung. In fact, working out of Seoul, and running a lot of the accounts there. Would you tell us really quickly just a little bit of like describe for us your experience with working with Samsung? What was that like?
I was based out of Seoul for 2.5 years. Worked on Samsung for a little more out of New York. The reason why I moved to Seoul was they are a very demanding brand, and time zones are irrelevant when it comes to the time of day that you worked. So I decided to go over there and help set up the office, work with the clients with Samsung directly. I was working at an agency. Um, and spoiler, it didn't really matter that I was living there. 3 a.m. phone calls were not normal. But I worked for an agency called Big Spaceship, and we were their social agency of record for Samsung Mobile, so for the mobile division. So and it was global. So all the launches for all the different devices around the world, we were part of coming up with the social plan for not only the launches themselves to drive attention around the new releases, but then to sustain in between, drive product differentiation, brand love. Obviously, Apple, biggest competitor in the US at least. I think a lot of Americans don't realize outside of the US, Android is actually the leader. And I'm still a Samsung user living in Europe. It's not that weird, but I am permanently the green bubble, unfortunately,
I
hated
respect
by
that.
all my
No,
friends and family.
I'm all green all the time as well on my end.
Yeah. So, in markets like the US, Samsung does have regional marketing leads, but we would work on the global campaign, and then the regions would adapt and amplify however they thought would work in the regions.
Well, I would love to dig into some of this stuff. When we were talking about BlackBerry, we touched on something that kind of ended up being really interesting, which was kind of tech nostalgia. We started talking about BlackBerry and like, oh, do you remember, like scrolling this way or blah, 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 and how there are a lot of people who are really into brick phones now. And there's, like a little bit of that kind of like throwback culture. And what that revealed to us is that there's a whole world of emotions that we have around our tech devices. So would love to hear from you a little bit about how you think you've seen companies like Samsung play with those types of emotions. How do they track what consumers think or engineer what consumers think? And are they able to look at the behaviors that are built around their devices? And then what do they do with that information?
I think mobile providers are no different than the bigger brands around the world like Nike, Adidas, where when it comes down to the technology for an average consumer, very similar. For someone that's very advanced into the technology, they will be a diehard Samsung fan or Pixel fan or Apple fan. But for your average consumer, it's pretty much the same across the board. So, what is it that drives this deep love of your iPhone? Like, I would never switch to Android. It's brand love. So that it's building that brand. So, I don't think there's anything uniquely different around mobile providers or mobile tech providers than other big brands, CPG brands. They're trying to drive differentiation with the hearts of consumers. So you can see it like, Apple, if you're an Apple user, what do you stand for? You're more artistic, you're creative, you're that California cool. Samsung specifically has tried to compete with that by being more globally relevant, more counterculture to this California cool, more a bit edgier. I would always compare it to like Coke and Pepsi. I felt like Samsung was like the Pepsi. Like we're like the younger, cooler, not your parents' iPhone kind of company, which I think you can see in a lot of their marketing. Like they're always working with like the coolest singers, bands. They do have like a big K-pop
Yeah.
presence, which isn't surprising since they're in Korea. But it, a lot of their marketing, I think, it feels a lot different than Apple, and that's on purpose. Like literally, Apple is like clean and white. Samsung is black. Like they take whatever Apple is and kind of flip it to drive that differentiation. Like we are not them, so choose us, not Apple.
Did you see examples of in your work of where consumers were kind of like bringing different emotions or different sort of sets of brand loyalty to Samsung? And if so, what did that look like? What did it look like when you're talking to people who are like, "Oh, I'm a Samsung person"? What were they bringing to that brand?
I think they tried. Um, One of the best examples, I think, from like how consumers represent themselves is on the Apple side, which is Shop by iPhone. That was a campaign that was started by consumers. Like consumers started with the hashtag Shop by iPhone. And when I knew we were going to be talking about this, I went to Apple's social media handles, and they're still using that.
Yeah,
Like
wow, yeah, wow.
that's still. I mean, they still use a hashtag. God bless them. I don't know who use hashtags
It's
anymore.
still in billboards, even. I feel like I see it in
Still on
billboards all over New
billboards,
York.
yeah. Yeah, so they're still leaning into this very consumer driven, consumer identity created campaign. And I think Samsung really tried to do that. I don't think they've gotten like the groundswell like Apple has, but that said, they do work with a lot of influencers now, a lot of content creators, not even influencers, I think really like content creators, people that are able to take their devices and use the unique features that they have
Yeah.
versus what their competitors have and lean into that and do some really cool shit that uh, you and I probably would never be able to do because we're not that intensely knowledgeable of the features of the phone. But you can see other people pick up on that and like, oh my God, like how did you create that video? And then they'll detail out the specific specs that they do in the phone. And so I think Samsung does a really good job about that, like leaning into content creators to create that kind of wave of UGC.
As somebody who still feeds his cat Purina after working at Purina, and now it's been at least 10 years, what, 10, 10, 15. I really resonate with you being like, well, I'm still a Samsung person. Are there pieces that you have kind of carried over from working with the brand that are like, this is why I still use Samsung stuff? Like, how do you feel about your phone?
Yeah, it's like the classic things that Android users say. It's so much more customizable from like how you can organize your phone to how to customize backgrounds, how to organize your apps. The just like the what do you call it? The user journey or the way that I move throughout the phone. I've become the person that when you give me an iPhone, I'm like, I can't work. I don't know how to work. How do you get out of the app? Um, and
Yeah.
I remember when I was using an iPhone and when I started working with Samsung, they like obviously I switched to Samsung to make sure I knew how to use the devices. And
Yeah.
I remember when I first had that device, I was like, how do you use that? So it's all what you know, but I also think the camera, whenever
Yes.
people see my camera, they're like, "Oh my God, like what phone is that?" And I'm like, "Samsung." Um, and last but certainly not least, and you might think I'm a big nerd, but I love the pen.
Oh yeah. I
Oh.
I'm
was
an S
wondering if you were gonna go with the stylus.
I'm an S Pen girly. I don't use it that often, but I I can work off this phone. Like I don't even need a laptop half the time. So I can do decks, I can
Wow.
edit edit reels and TikToks like quite advancedly, and I do it really fast with the stylus.
Yeah.
It's so real on the camera. My partner and I, when we go on vacation, we don't use my phone for exactly that reason. It's like always deferring to the Android phone because it's just infinitely better than iPhone. And they also the cameras in some ways like if you don't upgrade frequently enough, you're really stuck, you know? So I hear that.
I'm one of those people that if I wait like every 2 years, I'm not an every year person because I don't think the advancements are that great. But
No.
yeah, every 2 years, I'm getting the latest and greatest because I want the best camera. That's my number one factor.
Well, and for those who are listening and don't know, you should be following Laura Kay at least on Instagram because she has the most extravagant, wild, adventuresome travel life that I've ever seen.
To work with a travel company.
Plug the handle and tell us a little bit about what the latest content.
It's at Laura AOK. To play on my name. The latest content. What is the latest content?
I mean, you were in the Caribbean, like I
I did,
guess.
yes. I was in St. Bart's for the first time ever, which sounds really bougie, and it is really bougie, but that's not my normal life. Um, yeah, I travel a lot for work, and then I also love travel personally. So I know this for a fact because with my tax forms, I have to fill out how often I'm in the Netherlands. And for the past 4 years that I've worked at Booking, I've been out of the Netherlands more than half the year.
Oh, wow.
It's a lifestyle.
It is, and Loafer goes with.
Loaf comes with me a lot of the time. Yeah.
Well, so you
22 countries, I think she's at.
really
Wow.
Something
has
around
she
there.
hit
Yeah.
all the continents yet?
She is 5 out of 7, and I think that'll probably be the end
Yeah,
because Australia and Antarctica,
that's
bit
just a lot of travel time.
unreasonable.
Yeah, yeah. She's kind of
But five
past
is completely reasonable.
very respectable for a glamorous dog.
Yeah.
You were talking about switching phones, and the idea of kind of like newness. I'm curious to hear you talk about kind of like, you know, in a world where now we're starting to think about nostalgia when it comes to phones. That feels like a new thing for me because I remember phones being like a phone that was a computer was like at one point in my life like a new thing that I had to contemplate, and that began this cycle of like kind of like new features, new features, new features like every year. I subjectively looking outside in feel like I'm not interested in that world anymore. Like
Sure will.
exactly as you, I'm not an upgrade every year type of person. Like it doesn't feel like the stuff changes fast enough for me to need to do that. And I also kind of just got like burned out on the cycle. Like I started to feel like I was just being like asked for another $1,500 every year for kind of nothing. But I'm curious to hear from you from inside the world. How important is the feature upgrades? How important are those types of things? And have you seen that change in recent years?
Yeah, when I was working there, it was all features. I mean, down to we were doing feature demo videos for YouTube. Um, I follow their marketing. I I think there's two sides of the coin. One, they still very much do feature marketing. And you look at all brands, you can shoot in 8K. We have four lenses now for a camera. It's
Yeah.
getting into like, I think they think consumers are that advanced. But, but, it's the new product update. Like it's the thing to talk about. And it's really hard when you work at a company like that convince them that consumers don't care how many pixels are in a camera, because there is a very small subset of consumers that do. But mostly people are just like, can I take a nice picture of my family or my dog or my vacation?
Yeah.
That said, I think they do a lot to tap into that nostalgia. I mean, look at Samsung. They made the Flip.
Yeah.
It's a flip phone.
Yeah.
That's because people were like, consumers were talking about flip phones. Obviously, it's still a touchscreen flip phone,
Yeah.
but like, I want the Fold, which is an even
Yeah.
a more intense one.
One of my
Yeah.
brothers has that one. It's so nice.
That Yeah, that might be because it's like, you don't even need you don't need a TV if you have the
No, totally.
you
Yeah.
don't need a computer, you don't need a TV, you don't need an iPad. Everything is your phone.
And the proper flips are so cute. I went to a party and somebody had one, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's so cute. I love it." Like, people were fawning over it.
But I think it taps into that nostalgia of the way that we used
Totally.
to be on phones. And if you look at a lot of their marketing, you can see them trying to tap into nostalgia in weird ways. Like, they're taking a picture, but it's in a vintage store. Like,
Right. 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 Right.
but they're still very much across the board leaning into features. They're also trying to brand build, and you see that with influencer partnerships, celebrity partnerships, sponsorships of different teams, sports teams. So they're still doing the feature stuff, but I think they're trying to balance it with this more brand building. And there's rumors that Apple is going to launch a flip phone, but I'm sure it's going to happen in 10 years and everyone's going to think it's great. And all the Samsung people are going to be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
guys,
So late.
a
Yeah.
little late. And I think, like, outside of the big companies, you see a lot of accessories companies create. Like, you can get the BlackBerry keyboard that's attached to your phone and connected via wireless and an app. So you see, like, different people taking advantage, or different companies taking advantage of this whole nostalgia feel that perhaps the big companies don't think will be that profitable, or maybe it won't last as long as they think it will. But there's also new entrants into the market where you have a cell phone, but it only has two apps on. Like, you're only allowed to have two apps on, or like cuts you off after 3 hours a day, or
Right.
you see a lot of apps too where you can monitor your usage time, or like won't let you do certain things on a phone at specific times during the day. So you can see people wanting to use technology less. And I think that's a hard thing for technology companies to lean into.
Yeah. Right. Like, how do you sell your new stuff to people who, how do you use using it less as a reason to buy them more?
Yeah, I mean, I see that trend in travel now. Like, a lot of resorts will sell anti-technology or no technology detox trips. So, I mean, you saw, like, White Lotus, when you got to the resort, you had to drop your phone off. So
Yeah.
this is something that people are craving, but I don't think a Samsung or an Apple is going to be like, "Hey, buy our phone that only has one app on it." Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think they're going to do that.
I feel like
Yeah.
there was also a big push. There was an article in the New York Times maybe like a year ago, and I think it was, maybe it was in the op-ed section, but the writer or journalist had written about how they were looking into some of the dumb phones of the moment, at that time, like light phone and things like that, and had dug up a couple studies that talked about how much less time people spent on their phones when they turned it to grayscale. And then they ended up doing it too. And I think it was something in like 18%, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was somewhere in the like teens of percentages less time spent on phone as a result of turning it into grayscale. And I'm not going to lie, my phone has been in grayscale since reading that.
I
I
try.
toggle it on and off, of course, when I'm taking a photo, but outside of that, like very rarely am I turning my phone back into color.
Idon shared this with us, and so I tried it, and The toughest part is like I do a lot of puzzle things in my
Oh,
spare time and things like, and like the difference between a yellow and a green tile in, like a word game is just like really difficult to tell in grayscale. So I kind of struggled and I went back to full color during the daytime, but then I have it set it at 9 p.m. every night. It like clicks over to grayscale. And so that means that like it turns my phone into a more hostile environment, which helps me remember to like unplug and go to bed. So
that's
that is
great.
like puzzle time's done,
Yeah.
So I think I appreciated the bump from you because it has helped kind of modulate that a little bit.
I want to try. I've like eliminated all other screens. Like I don't watch TV. I don't use a Kindle anymore. When I read a book, I just read a real book. I try to eliminate screens, but for me, my phone time, it's my fun time, and I'm just okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Well, speaking of fun time, should we
Mm.
get into our next segment,
Oh
Idon?
my gosh,
Mm.
yes, let's do it. So we're warmed up a little bit, so we want to do a segment that we call off brand, where I'm going to ask three brand related questions related to consumer electronics, but honestly, mostly related to Samsung. Um, it is not for points, although, there is personal satisfaction that you can come away with if you get them all right. But are you ready? Okay, let's do it. So the first one, I'm going to give you a multiple choice on this one. Which of the following was the name of Samsung's parody ad series mocking Apple Store employees from just about 7 to 10 years ago? A. Genius Upgrade.
Genius.
B. Smart Support. C. Ingenious. Or D. Next Level Service.
I feel like I worked on this. What was the first one again?
I'm so sorry I couldn't hear you.
Oh,
Shit.
what was the first
The
one
first
again?
one was Genius Upgrade.
I know it was something with Genius, so I didn't think it was that, but I'm gonna go with Genius Upgrade.
Genius Upgrade, close. That one was in there to trick you. It's actually C, Ingenious.
Ingenious.
Yeah, so they made like a series of ads where they would like pretend like they were Apple Store employees, and we'll definitely link it in the show notes. I was watching a few of them the other day. They're pretty, I mean, they're very direct, in terms of we are
I
not
mean, I
Apple.
worked on that, and I thought it doesn't take a genius.
Maybe that was the
Maybe that was the
tagline,
tagline, yeah.
which
Or
we will
maybe they
give
did
partial points
something,
for.
maybe they did another one
Yeah.
without me.
Do you remember what some of the stuff was, Laura, that you guys worked
It
on?
was like it was mocking um like Apple's new features and basically like it was kind of like, yeah, we've had that for years now, but it was Apple employees that were like so hyped for this new launch, and they're like, it's a 30 megapixel camera, and they were like, but Samsung's had that for 5 years. We're excited about that. Yeah. So it was like it was they were mocking, they were Apple employees mocking the Apple launch.
Yeah.
Uh,
In the theme of Genius, the Genius Bar or whatever.
Yeah.
Pretty great. Okay, next one. Which platform became central to Samsung's creator marketing strategy in the early 2020s?
TikTok.
TikTok, yeah, absolutely. Everything that I
bow,
was
bow, bow,
reading online was talking
bow.
about how that was their next distribution outlet. It was interesting that you talked about how it was also looking at creators to help push features, because that was also kind of coming through in the research I was doing. Um, so, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we when we were working together, we worked with a lot of creators on their launches. So creators would come, and their launch, they're like these big events. It's like you think you're at the Super Bowl, and we had a whole bunch of creators come, and then they had to demonstrate all the cool new features on the phone, and they'd be live streaming to their audiences. It was chaotic. We had one of the Paul brothers ones as well. It was, yeah, you could imagine.
Which one?
The older, who's the older one?
I don't remember.
The one that got canceled for what? Well, I think maybe they've both gotten canceled, but
Was he the
the
one
the
that?
the OG one.
Okay, the new fighter. He's like a I don't know. He.
That's the younger one.
Oh, okay.
Get your Logan brothers right, or Paul
Yeah,
brothers. I don't know.
one of them's low. It's not. They aren't my number one priority. I was curious. Like, do you when you guys work with creators? Is there ever like a disconnect when you're doing the Samsung work where you're like working with creators who you've paid to be part of the Samsung brand, but they themselves use iPhone? Does that a thing you run into?
They just use it for the activation, and you it was pretty impossible to try to have someone be 100% Samsung because then they would be photographed with an iPhone. They're like, "Oh, it was my assistant's," and you're like, "There's no point."
Yeah.
So it would be for like special events, they would have to be with their iPhone, or for a campaign, it would have to be shot with a Samsung,
Right.
and then they would go back on their merry lives with their iPhones.
That's so ridiculous.
But fun fact, a lot of Samsung employees do have iPhones for competitive research.
Oh, but of
Oh,
course.
wow.
Yeah, they'll admit that themselves.
All right. The next one, I have a bonus if we want, but the next one is in a famous Samsung ad, what animal learns to fly using VR? And I can give a hint if we need it.
Ostrich.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Rocket Man's playing in the background. The ostrich is like running around in this like open field essentially. It ends with it taking flight because it's using the VR headset and the hashtag. Do you remember the hashtag?
No.
Do what you can't.
I remember this because we were like, isn't that Adidas's tagline? It was like so close to Adidas.
That's actually
there was
funny.
a
Yeah.
whole world where it was like, I will what I won't. And like, I just
Yeah.
remember like a lot of that for like 2 years. There's like a weird little like inversions of negatives marketing trope.
And a common vernacular, right? Because it was like the whole like you won't kind of like,
Yeah.
people were always saying that at the end of random sentences that didn't quite make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think Nike just ruined it for everyone where it was like, oh, we just need it like short and pithy and like,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember the do what you can. It was like, it's like Nike. And you're like, it's not.
I love it.
Didn't last long.
The last one, I'll just actually just give this away. But I think the bonus that I also looked into is, of course, like what global rise was Samsung strongly associated with, and a lot of the things that I was reading yesterday were about the Korean wave essentially. So their partnerships with K-pop artists, they have the BTS partnership. They also have brought in a lot of specific regional design aesthetics and soul-based innovation, modernity, like focusing on the city itself as well as the country at large. And of course, now they're a sponsor of the Olympics. So I think we had touched upon all of that in our conversation about how they're leaning into partnerships, both with sports and artists, but also bringing that culture to the fore.
I think their sponsor Devil Wears Prada too. I just saw a promo for
Oh,
for Samsung with that. I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah. I was like, well, what about K-pop Demon Hunters 2? Like, they got to be up on that.
I I feel like if they haven't started those conversations yet, they're probably going to. Although, the target demographic for that is like quite young.
That's true. But it's I mean, like, all parents, like,
yeah, I
everybody,
was gonna say all the parents watched it.
we
Yeah,
all
yeah,
watched
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't I have nephews. That's why I watched. Did you watch it just in your own with your own free will?
I did because I wanted to know what was going on. Like there was a lot of chatter, and I felt like I needed to be kind of like up on it.
It was good.
I did not regret the time that I spent with the Demon Hunters. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can admit that I watched it more than once.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the like. Was it once solo and then once with and then more with kiddos, or did you go back?
The kids are like, "Let's watch it again," and I'm like, "You know what? What the hell? Let's do it."
Do it.
Yeah. All right, so we've got one more segment. So far, Idon and I have kind of been leading the conversations, but it is your turn. You're going to turn the tables on us. We are giving you a promotion. It's time to play Omnipotent Brand Manager. You've been promoted to the most powerful brand manager in the history of creation for the span of a single project. You can do anything. What brand would you work with, and what would you do?
Spicy one.
Excellent. We love spicy.
I, if I could be the brand manager for any brand, it would be for the next Democratic candidate for US president.
Oh, take us there.
Yeah.
Wow, no one has waded this far into the political thicket.
Because right now, I would just be every day collecting memes, making memes, going for the next 2.5 years so that when that campaign starts, you just have a wealth to pull from. So for me, what is that launch campaign for the next Democratic political candidate in a year and a half or whenever that's
Right.
going to come out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like as far as, actual politics aside? What are the pieces of kind of like branding that you feel like would be important? You're talking about kind of like meme culture and communicating in like new media. Are there other like branding components that you feel like as you step into your role as brand manager, you'd be wanting to lean into?
Positioning is massive. Like if you think about how politicians position their presence, their brand presence, especially online. I mean, look at the White House account now and what it has been prior.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Night
Look
and
at
day.
Newsom in California and how he's completely changed his presence to combat the the current presidential presence. So for me, I would be doing so much research into what, like, are people just sick of like the absolute absurdity that that whole office has projected? Like, I think everyone thought, or maybe people still think it's like quite funny, it's more human, that's the positive side of it, I suppose. But do people really want that, or do we want something that we can put more on a respectable pedestal versus like, oh yeah, that's a funny meme. Yeah, so I would be doing a lot of thinking about how to position based on the current climate. What would break through? What would people be receptive to? What do people want in that next president? I think it would be so interesting. I remember when whenever a new president comes in, and I just remember seeing it on LinkedIn for Kamala. They were like posting all these job positions for the role, and I was just like, oh, that would be such
Yeah.
a cool role. I mean, think about the current administration. Like, they have a whole marketing team
Yeah.
that works to build what his mark like what his whole presence is. I mean, he has a shop in the White House, for God's sake, creating merch. Like,
Yeah. Right.
that's a brand team making that. So yeah, I would love to be a part of that. So the Democratic committee is looking. I'd be willing to offer my services in exchange for a very large sum of money.
Love it. You heard it here first. I also think about Mdami as another example of like using social
Yeah.
media in just interesting way. I mean, some of
Yeah,
his
and
videos during the snowstorms that we had this year in New York, where he's like, right down there with the waste management or whatever, when the trucks have the snow plow hooked up and talking about how they're going to plow the streets. And visibility like we haven't had in a long time, in a good way.
Exactly. He's providing a lot of transparency that we haven't had in that office before.
That
So
was exceptionally. I don't know if you guys were part of like the media that was created around there, but in the gay community, there was an enormous amount of like really double entendre stuff. Like there was when he was it was like it's hole filling season. It was like
The
this
potholes.
huge thing about potholes, and then he was talking about plowing the streets.
Yes.
Like these words were used very
he knew what he was
intentionally.
doing.
Yes, and like we were just the entire joke is that there's a chaotic twink that is running Mamdani's Instagram account, and every time a new one comes out, we all share it and are just like more.
They're a chaotic twink or like a completely oblivious, like older millennial.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I could
like a
see it
really
either way.
well-meaning, like very nice woman who's just like, all
With
right,
four
it's time to
kids.
fill those potholes.
And I'm fine with either, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
That is amazing. Well, that has taken us essentially to time. Thank you so much for being with us today, Laura. I feel like we covered a lot of ground from Android evangelism, Loaf, the celebrity who's also no longer allowed in certain jurisdictions, to also talking about Samsung's marketing, brand building, and so much more. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your wealth of knowledge and expansive experiences with us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so fun. And if you can ever make up another reason for me to come on, I would be happy to.
I will be as soon as you get the job running the new presidential brand campaign. We will absolutely be trying to book you on our show. So just remember that. We're going to try and hold you to that. And, you know, in the meantime, thank you everybody else for joining us as well. If you want to learn more about Territorial and how we help brands find their place in the world, go to our website. It's www.weareterritorial.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn and check us out on TikTok. And don't forget to check out Laura Kay's travel adventures on her Instagram as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.